Hello everyone and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to dye a piece of clothing with you. This is a very easy way to freshen up a piece of beloved clothing, a favorite piece of your closet that you don't want to throw away. It is very simple, it's very affordable, so let's get going. So the piece of clothing I'll be dyeing today is this light blue dress. It's a linen dress that I made myself, probably about 3 years ago or so. And it's one of my favorite summer pieces. It is so light and airy and it's just wonderful to wear. So when I made it, I was still very much a beginner, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but I'll insert some mud shots as I've mentioned. You can see some of the chalk lines on the dress, and initially you couldn't see it because it was at the back, but the more I washed it, the clearer it became. So I am going to be dyeing this dress because I am not ready to get rid of it. The first two brands of dye that I know are these two, Dylon, and the other one is called Core. Not sure how to pronounce that. I will insert a close-up of them as well. I've used both of them and they work equally well. I did find that the Dylon is a bit more expensive than the Core, but they're the same product essentially. This one you don't need a washing machine. This one you do need a washing machine. One of the first things you would want to check is the composition of the fabric that the piece of clothing is made out of. So for the dress that I'm going to be dyeing today, I mentioned that I made it myself, so I know that this is a 100% linen dress. I used cotton stitching, and then the zipper at the back, let me show you, is probably going to be made out of a synthetic material. But if you are interested in dyeing something such as your denim, denim is a very great item to dye, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail further. But you can see that this denim over here, and you're going to check this small little label inside, is predominantly made out of cotton, polyester, and then a little bit of elastane. So this is almost 90% cotton. So if I were to go into the fabric store and look for the dye that I need for this denim, I'm gonna pick the cotton dye. Also, I can clearly see that the stitching on this denim is also black. And this denim is quite a plain black one. There's no fading in it. I'm gonna insert a close-up of the different dyes that I saw in store and the different classifications thereof. So far, I've only dyed cotton, I'd say predominantly, and then a combination of cotton and say polyester, such as denim. Before you go into the store to go buy your dye, it is very important to weigh the item of clothing or items of clothing that you would like to dye. So for this Dylon packet, you can use 1.2 kilograms of fabric. And for this one over here, the Core, the amount of fabric this one is able to dye, it is able to dye 300 grams of fabric. So you want to make sure that you weigh the fabric before the piece of clothing, the item, the linen, whatever it is, so that you know how much dye to buy. Another thing with the Dylon, you're going to need some table salt, where with this one you don't need table salt. This one you're going to need 500 grams of ordinary salt. So just take that into consideration when going out to buy all of the things you're going to need. And just to reiterate, make sure that you read all of the instructions on the box or the bottle of dye that you are using, because they may differ from different brands, and I wouldn't want you to ruin a piece of beloved clothing. A common mistake to make is not to really take into consideration all of the different details that it can be on a piece of clothing, a dress, a top. So for instance, I already mentioned that this zipper is a synthetic material. Therefore, if I'm using a cotton dye for this dress, it might be that the zipper will not dye and it will remain this light blue color. Now I did check in the store and I didn't want to change the color of this dress. I wanted it to remain a light blue color. But the thing is, the different blues that they had didn't all seem too close enough to this specific light blue. The one bottle said turquoise. The color of the lid did look light blue, but it said turquoise, so I wasn't too keen to buy the turquoise one, so I bought a different blue. But I am expecting to maybe sit with the issue that the zipper won't dye because of the different fabric composition. So I am willing for this dress to replace my zipper, because obviously I said I made the dress and I don't mind doing that, but I would recommend that you just take that into consideration. If you have a piece of lace and it's maybe a synthetic lace on a top and you're dyeing the top, the lace will not dye. The common mistake that I made once is that I had a white dress with white stitching and I spilled something on it and I was like, oh my goodness, it's now ruined, and I think it was red wine or something. So I wanted to dye the dress black and very excited to dye the dress. It was a cotton dress, dyed the dress, but then the stitching was made out of a synthetic material. Therefore the stitching stood out like clear as daylight in bright white, and the rest of the dress was then beautifully black. And I didn't really like the contrast of the stitching to the rest of the dress, so just take that into consideration when dyeing an item of clothing. Another tip for you is that I would usually stick with the color the item already is. So if it's the light blue dress, I would try to dye it a light blue, a fresher version of this, or a newer light blue color. If I have this piece of black denim, I wouldn't try and dye it a green or a red or something like that. I would just stick to a black. If you're dyeing something like this blue denim dress, the fading will obviously not be there anymore, and the result will be a solid blue color. Also, this almost like yellow brownish stitching will also probably turn blue. So if I were to dye something like this, this is gonna turn out to be a solid blue skirt at the end of the day. This would be an ideal dress to dye a solid black if the black maybe lost its color. I recommend always going darker and not lighter. So if I wanted to make this light blue dress a darker blue color, that will still work, but trying to make this white is not going to be possible. So always rather go for a darker shade instead of a lighter shade. When dyeing your item, make sure that you use the correct equipment. Remember, you're working with dye. So for instance, the white top that I'm wearing today is the worst thing to wear, because if just a small little drop of the dye or the liquid then spills back on this, it's gonna be, I'll ruin this top and I'll have to dye this one as well. So always make sure that you may be wearing gloves. If you have a fresh manicure, wear an apron, maybe even an old t-shirt just to be super safe, and use a bowl that you don't care for that much, or if some stain or color remains on the plastic bowl, that you're not using one of your favorite things that you'll have to throw away. And then lastly, after you've dyed your item, be aware that the clothing of item that you've dyed will still have some color left over in it. So if you're washing it again, make sure to either wash it separately or with very much likewise colors, so that the remaining dye inside that piece doesn't dye all of the other clothing pieces around it inside the washing machine. And again, I've already mentioned, but with something like this where you need a washing machine, please follow the instructions, because you actually have to rinse the washing machine after you've dyed the item of clothing. Otherwise, if you're going to put a fresh bundle of linen into the machine, it's probably going to stain that as well. Okay, so my water just finished boiling, so I'm gonna put it into the bowl as well as the color, give it a good mix, and then I'm gonna insert my dress. I filled up the kettle with exactly 1 liter of water because it does have a measuring system here. It just avoids using another measuring cup. my dye. With a teaspoon, I'm just gonna give it a mix. I already wet the dress and now I'm going to insert into the bucket. Alright, so I am going to try and flatten my dress by just folding it. Because you need it to completely submerge. Just going to use the same teaspoon and press it down into the color. Now this dress is definitely going to turn out not light blue, but definitely a darker blue. The dress is currently not completely covered. I think you'll be able to see it in the pictures in the frame as well. I'm quickly going to boil a bit more water so that I can cover it. So the dress is refusing to submerge completely, so I'm just going to put a spoon or something heavy on top of it so that I can keep it submerged the whole time. I've got 2 clean knives over here and I'm just going to place it on top of the dress. Now that the dress is completely submerged under the boiling water with the dye inside, I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes. So that is the timer for the dress that I've just soaked in the hot water and dye, and I'm very excited to see how it turned out. I'm going to remove it from this bowl. I'm going to throw away the water and be careful when emptying the bucket, because obviously the splashback of the water can again stain your clothes. Realized I did make a mistake. The last time I used the dye inside the small little bottle where you don't use the washing machine, the dye was very close to the original color of the garment, and this time I didn't move the garment around inside the bowl with the dye inside, so it actually seems to have a look similar to a tie-dye look, and I don't like it very much for this style dress. Of course, maybe if it's a beach dress I wouldn't have mind, but I will definitely have to do the dye again. And as you can see, my initial concern is definitely was correct. So the zipper did not dye, so I'll have to buy a dark colored zipper for the dress. So I'll probably do both of them this afternoon, get some more dye, get a new zipper, and show you what I'll do with it tomorrow. Hello everyone, it is the next day. So yesterday I finished off by quickly showing you outside while the dress was drying that the color didn't really distribute as evenly as I wanted it to. I'm wondering if you're going to be able to see it in this light. Yes, you are. So the color didn't distribute as evenly as I wanted, and it was my first time coloring with the manual color. And if I call the manual color, I mean the one that you don't need the washing machine for, and that I actually went as drastic a color difference as this one. So the previous one I didn't really see this, but because again the color difference wasn't as big, huge as this one, from a very light blue to a very dark blue. Therefore now I'm noticing that I definitely didn't distribute the color well enough. So note to self, and this I will definitely include as I hope my last tip when dyeing clothes, is to make sure that you distribute the color evenly. What I decided to do is I'm first going to replace the zipper, and I did mention that I expected this to be the case before I even started. So again, I'll just show you. You can see the light blue zipper inside of the dress. So I took the dress with me yesterday afternoon, and I quickly went into the fabric store and I bought a zipper close enough to the dark blue color that it will end up to be. So I decided to first do the zipper and then I will do the dye a second time round. The reason for that is I don't have to then go and buy the same color yarn for putting in the zipper into the dress. I can just use any plain cotton, because again, the plain cotton will dye with the second time of me dyeing my dress with the same color. So this is the empty bottle and this is the full one I've got here. So I'm just going to use a cotton stitching for putting in the zipper, and then I will give it another dye. I did mention yesterday, if you're using a cotton yarn versus something like a polyester yarn, the cotton yarn will obviously dye with the rest of the dress, which is a natural fibre. The light blue color that's left over is stitching inside of the dress that I did with a synthetic yarn. That obviously did not dye, but if you look closely, you'll see a straight line, which is the top stitch that I used over there, and that yarn dyed with the rest of the dress yesterday. So it's now the exact same blue color as the rest of the dress, except that the dress is still looking very much tie-dye and is not really a solid color, but that will be fixed shortly. So hang in there, and I'm quickly going to replace the zipper and then I'll do the dye again. Let's get going. The zip is finally removed. Finally done. The new zipper is in and it easily opens and closes, so that is really good news. And I am going to go and put this through the dye once more, and then I will just dry it, iron it, and try it on for you guys to see what it looks like. Okay, let's go. So as you guys can see, the dress turned out really well. It is this beautiful dark blue color, and I really do like the color, although it is a bit dark and was a bit of effort to replace the zipper. I'm just wearing it with wedges or with my white sneakers. This is probably the best way to wear it. I love wearing it with the white sneakers. It's such a beautiful casual look, and it is really perfect for summer. As I've mentioned, it's so light and airy, it fits beautifully, and it is very, very comfortable to wear. I will insert a few photos of what it looked like before so that you guys can see it. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time. Cheers, guys.